Hello everyone, welcome to PAWAN LUTHRA podcasts. Joining me today is Nick Hockley, CEO of Cricket Australia. Nick is widely admired in the world of sports management, especially cricket, with his successful navigation of Cricket Australia through the uncertain times of COVID. He's also a wonderful advocate for multiculturalism in cricket, altogether a very decent guy who I'm proud to call my friend. Hi Nick.
PAWAN, thanks for having me.
Now, blockbuster summer of cricket is coming up with India coming here for 5 test matches. The first time they've done it after 1991, 92. How did you manage to get a 5 test series scheduled in a busy calendar both for India and Australia?
Well, look, firstly, it's the rivalry has just grown over the years, and I think all sports fans and cricket fans want to see the best players and the best teams competing against each other. And really through that COVID period, we had the almost through adversity comes strength, and we had the opportunity to work very closely with our friends at the BCCI because India were due to tour in 2020-21, and the discussions were really around Test cricket being the pinnacle format. We talked about the Ashes, that's a 5 test series, and India and Australia have been ranked 1 and 2 in Test cricket. They've obviously competed the last World Test Championship Trophy final. So really the proposition and the vision was for the Border Gavaskar series to be pitched at the same level as the Ashes, and we've been blown away by the level of interest.
Right.
Lots of people are going to be travelling from India,
right,
but from all over the world, from the US, from the UK. So promises to be a very, very exciting series.
Just circling back to the rivalry between India and Australia, why? What makes it so exciting? Obviously, last time when India played their 4 test series, towards the end there was a little bit of knockiness, and you had to step in to make sure that the Gava test went forward. What can we expect this time?
Well, I think you've got 2 very proud and very competitive nations, and you've also, we've seen, Australia hasn't beaten India for the last 4 series, including 2 here in Australia. And Australia are notoriously difficult to beat in home conditions. Add to that the World Test Championship, add to that the Cricket World Cup in India, and add to the fact that both sides have got some very experienced players, which I think history will determine were some of the finest players to ever play the game. ViratKohli, Steve Smith, the big 3 quicks from Australia, Jasprit Bumrah, these types of generational players. And then add to that, there's just the most fantastic expat community here.
Yes.
We've seen from series past, we've seen from World Cups. I think we've been talking to the players, and probably their biggest fear is that it's going to feel like an away game because there's going to be so many Indian fans around Australia. But I think I really do believe that the Border Gavaskar Trophy and the Ashes, very much on a par.
So I'm looking forward to this mouth-watering series, but could you have imagined something like this happening when you took over the role of CEO of Cricket Australia just at the start of the pandemic, with all cricketing plans going all over the direction as nobody knew what will happen at COVID?
Well, firstly, the opportunity to do this job is an absolute privilege. I think it's the best job. I've got the best job in Australia, best job in Australian sport. But I think, the whole world was contending with something the like of which we'd never seen before. I think...
So the borders were getting shut down. There was a future cricketing tour of the Indian team coming through.
Well, I think we saw the very best of people because, I think it was an existential situation where if we hadn't been able to continue the game, we would have, there would have been very dire financial consequences for the game, keeping people employed, people's jobs. But then also there was this real determination that even though people couldn't go to stadiums, couldn't leave their houses, actually we felt a real responsibility to make sure that we did everything we possibly could to keep going and actually bring a bit of joy to people when through a time of adversity. So for me, the the hallmark of that was the way that people work together. And that's cricket boards, it's governments, cricketing organisations, the venues. Everyone came together, and it was all about solving problems. And these were problems that no one had even contemplated before. And I think what we saw so many different innovations to keep the show on the road. One of my favourites is the McGrath Foundation, who couldn't have people collecting funds
for the cancer research.
Yeah, so they produced an online virtual pink seat and blew all their records out of the water. So there's so much happened during that period in such quick fire. I probably still haven't fully absorbed it, but it was very adrenaline fueled, high stakes, high pressure, but ultimately everyone worked together. And I think that really talks to the importance of sport and of cricket to the community, that people pulled together and were able to keep the show on the road.
Nick, not only the COVID games, but also it is said that your time in charge of Cricket Australia will be remembered as one of the most dramatic in Cricket Australia's history. We obviously had the controversy with Tim Paine, David Warner wanting to be reinstated as captain, Usman Khawaja and Pat Cumming, social issues. It is said that where the worldwide pandemic broke several sporting administrators, it was largely the making of Nick Hockley. Would you like to comment on that?
I think, again, hugely privileged to do this role. It's varied. No 2 days are the same. Get to work with incredible people. I think everyone who works in cricket. I mean, the thing that I often get played back to me is that, God, your team of staff are so passionate, so hardworking. So, I don't necessarily see it as kind of particularly tough, or I just think that all of those were issues to work through. And probably the two mantras are, one, in making decisions, make sure we've done our homework, really make sure we've done the homework, because I firmly believe that quality of decision is is all of the work and the analysis that goes behind that decision. And then the other is that it's a people business, and we're dealing with people. I had the good fortune to meet incredible people, both on the playing side, the administrators, from other cricketing boards, and I think the main thing is really can't underestimate or understate the importance of relationships. So whilst we've had some difficult, there's been some difficult moments, difficult situations, I really hope that it's seen that I've tried to maintain really good relationships throughout, and ultimately it's about treating people as how you'd like to be treated yourself.
Nick, now you're one sporting leader who has embraced multicultural Australia. You have expressed your impatience at the speed of change required at senior levels of cricket, with only 4% of South Asian players playing at these levels, in spite of 20% of junior cricketers around Australia being of South Asian background. This lack of representation is not only on the field, but also on the administration side. Will change happen organically, or does it need to be pushed through? And if so, how?
Yeah, well, I think cricket's really fortunate that there's such passion in the community. I grew up in Birmingham in England, which is probably the most multicultural city in the UK. My cricket club, West Bromwich Dartmouth, there were kids from Indian heritage, Pakistani heritage, Sri Lankan heritage, and great friends. I had the good fortune to travel to many of these countries through my work. The starting point is that cricket should be 100% representative of the community we serve, and we all know that changing demographics of Australia, and I think we're so fortunate to live in a safe, peaceful, democratic country where the majority of people have come from somewhere else. So I think as you say, we've done a lot of work to understand the numbers, and we've launched a multicultural action plan because what the numbers say is that there's really good representation through junior playing ranks, but there is underrepresentation at the senior playing ranks and in the administration. So I'm really proud of the work that's been done on the multicultural action plan. It's one thing to do the work, but it's another thing to make sure that we follow through on the actions. But what it provides for is a very simple set of actions, one of which the most important is representation through all levels of the administration of the game. So the fact that we've put it out there, the fact that all of Australian cricket has input into it and has signed up to it, I think I'm very optimistic about accelerating the trajectory that we're on. But it'll be a work in progress. And even within Cricket Australia, I think we've got good representation, but more so at the junior levels of the organisation rather than the senior levels of the organisation. So a lot of it is making sure that senior leaders are getting opportunities, and then equally that they're mentoring people through.
Nick, during your tenure, a couple of social issues have come up. One was Pat Cummins and his discussion about the sponsorship with Alinta Energy. The other one with Usman Khawaja and his passion for the politics of what's happening in the Middle East. How important are these wider social issues in context of the greater good of the game?
A couple of things to say on that. I think firstly with Pat and Alinta, I think that was taken a bit out of context. Pat was never averse to that partnership, but he's very deeply cares about the environment. He's one of the most well-read people I know, exceptionally curious, and cares deeply, and is really through Cricket for Climate leading very significant change. So I think as a rule we should, athletes and leaders being able to express their opinions freely is something we've tried and I've really sought to support. And then I think with Uzi, he has got a really significant social conscience. We partnered with the Usman Khawaja Foundation, giving young kids who wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to pick up a bat and ball, which is fantastic. And I think he's been very clear that his was very much a humanitarian rather than a kind of any kind of political type of stance. But again, that one was, we encourage Uzi to have a view and to share his opinions. I think but when it comes to putting on the uniform of the Australian cricket team, that's a different thing. There's rules and regulations around keeping the kit clean, and so that was something that we worked with Uzi, and is more appropriately done over his own channels. But that was again, I've loved working with Uzi. He won't be anyone more passionate about making sure there's equal representation or equal opportunities in the game. He has lived it, his journey, and through his talent, his perseverance, his passion, his work ethic, kind of has made it to the very, very top. And I think he understands, he's got real influence as a leader. And so, again, hopefully through the relationship, we're able to manage situations such as that one.
How has a good personal relationship worked well in favour of both the countries? That between you as CEO of Cricket Australia and Jay Shah as BCCI chief?
I think it requires lots of different relationships at different levels and on different subject matters. So Aaron Dimal, for example, sits on the Chief Executives Committee, is chair of the IPL. That's a very important relationship. Hamang Amin is the CEO of the BCCI. On operational issues, he's a very, very important person. And then obviously we've got cricket operations, scheduling people. So it requires multiple levels. And I think certainly I know that I chair Mike Baird, with Jay moving from CEC onto the board, has struck a very good relationship with Jay. And that'll be really important now that he is due to take over the position as chair of the ICC, which is an extremely important position in world cricket.
Lovely. Nick Hockley, thank you very much for joining us on PAWAN LUTHRA podcast.
Thanks, Dan, and thanks for all your support, and to Indian Link.
Thanks.